There's something powerful about a person who knows when to speak and when to stay silent. Something unshakable about a person who doesn't feel the need to respond to every accusation, explain every action, or defend every decision. You can always tell when someone has matured into a deeper level of wisdom. They talk less, but they carry more authority. They say fewer words, but those words weigh more. Their silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Their quietness is not passivity, it's power under control. That's what I want to remind you of today. Silence is your greatest weapon. Sometimes the most strategic thing you can do in life is not to fight back, not to react, not to prove a point, but to stay quiet and let God defend you. Let the truth defend you. Let the results speak for you. There's a reason why life's greatest breakthroughs often happen in the quiet places. Seeds don't grow on noisy stages. They grow under silent soil. Diamonds aren't formed in loud crowds. They're formed in deep pressured places where no one is watching and no one is applauding. The same is true with you. The strength you're building in your quietness is going to outlast the noise of what's coming against you. There's something deeply freeing about understanding that you don't have to respond to everything in order to be respected. You don't have to jump into every conversation, correct every misstatement, or clarify every misunderstanding to hold on to your value. Respect doesn't come from how loudly you defend yourself. It comes from how securely you carry yourself. It's easy to feel like if we don't say something, people will think we're weak or unaware. It's tempting to believe that silence somehow makes us appear small or insignificant. But the truth is, silence is often a sign of strength, not weakness. It takes far more discipline to hold your tongue than it does to lash out. It takes more maturity to stay quiet than it does to react quickly. When you realize that your worth is not attached to people's opinions but to your purpose, you'll understand that your voice doesn't have to be in every room to make an impact. There will always be situations that invite your reaction. People who challenge your integrity, circumstances that test your patience, moments when you feel obligated to prove yourself. But when you know who you are and whose you are, you won't feel the pressure to constantly explain yourself to people who have already made up their mind. Some people aren't looking for clarity, they're looking for conflict. They don't want to understand you, they want to provoke you. And if you keep giving them your words, you'll keep giving them your power. Every unnecessary response drains energy that could be used to build your future. Every time you pause to address the critics, you delay the progress of what's ahead. Silence, when chosen wisely, is not avoidance, it's advancement. It's choosing to keep your focus on what matters most instead of getting entangled in what doesn't. You don't need to rush to correct every false narrative about you. Time has a way of revealing truth that words never can. Results have a way of silencing rumors without you having to utter a single defense. When people see the favor on your life, when they see the doors opening, when they see the consistency of your character, all of that speaks louder than anything you could say in a moment of frustration. You're not here to convince everyone, you're here to complete your assignment. And that assignment is too valuable to be constantly interrupted by explanations. The right people will recognize your heart without needing a long speech. The right doors will open without you forcing them through persuasion. And the right timing will clear up what confusion clouded for a season. The quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth is magnetic. You don't have to shout when you know you've already won. You don't have to argue when you know the truth is on your side. Silence is not about suppressing your voice. It's about stewarding it wisely. It's about knowing that every time you hold your peace, you protect your progress. And you protect your peace. What you don't engage in can't drain you. What you don't respond to can't distract you. Every time you choose silence over strife, you stay on the path to what's next. Silence isn't about losing your voice. It's about preserving your vision. It's about protecting the atmosphere around you so that you can keep hearing clearly. Noise pulls you into battles that were never yours to fight. Noise invites you into rooms you were never meant to enter. But silence keeps you aligned with your assignment. Silence positions you for revelation that only comes in stillness. If you spend all your time defending your past, you won't have the energy to build your future. But when you trust that what's ahead of you is stronger than what's behind you, you won't need to turn back and engage with every critic along the way. Your destiny doesn't require their agreement. Your promise doesn't depend on their approval. And your journey doesn't slow down just because someone else doesn't understand it. When you stay silent, you're not just ignoring negativity, you're giving heaven the space to speak louder than you ever could. There's something powerful about letting God defend you, letting favor do what your words cannot. There are times when your silence invites supernatural intervention. When you step back from the argument, you give heaven room to step in with evidence. When you stop explaining yourself, you create space for undeniable favor to show up. That favor will open doors that no conversation could unlock. That favor will speak in rooms where your voice has never been heard. That favor will turn the hearts of people in your direction, not because you convinced them, but because heaven confirmed you. Heaven speaks clearest in quiet hearts. When you don't cloud your spirit with constant reactions, you stay sensitive to the whispers of guidance that shape your next move. There's wisdom that flows in stillness that can't be accessed in chaos. The clarity you've been praying for doesn't live in endless debates. It lives in moments of surrendered silence. That's where direction rises. That's where discernment sharpens. That's where strategies unfold that no argument could produce. Some victories aren't won through louder words. They're won through quieter spirits. The less you respond to what doesn't serve you, the more you make room for what does. The less you argue with what tried to block you, the more strength you gather to walk into what's about to bless you. Silence isn't void, it's positioning. It's aligning you with something greater than human understanding. And it's equipping you with the wisdom to know when to speak and when to be still. There are moments when silence is not the absence of action, but the preparation for it. The strength you build in quietness shows up in boldness later. The discipline you build by holding your tongue shows up as promotion when it's time. What you don't say now becomes the platform that elevates you later. It's not always easy. Sometimes your greatest test is not in what you say, but in what you don't say. Your greatest battle is not in proving your point, but in holding your peace. But every time you choose restraint over reaction, you're sowing into a harvest of strength. You're developing a character that can sustain elevation. You're growing a depth that won't crumble under pressure. And you're proving that respect is not demanded, it's demonstrated. Not by noise, but by consistency. Not by arguments, but by fruit. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. You don't owe constant clarification. What you owe is focus. What you owe is diligence. What you owe is obedience to your calling. You're not here to gather everyone's agreement. You're here to fulfill what was placed inside you. And when you walk with that quiet confidence, heaven has a way of amplifying your steps louder than your words ever could. The places you're about to go will speak louder than the conversations you're tempted to have. The doors that are about to open will silence the opinions that try to label you. The evidence that is coming will erase the doubt that surrounded you. Your silence is not empty. It's pregnant with power. It's filled with promise, and it's loaded with purpose. Don't underestimate what's happening in the quiet seasons. That's where roots grow deep. That's where foundations are laid strong. That's where strength is built unshakable. And when the time is right, what was cultivated in silence will show up in strength that cannot be denied. You don't have to broadcast every move. You don't have to announce every next step. What is birthed in quietness shows up with evidence that speaks volumes. You don't have to be loud to be effective. You don't have to be seen to be significant. You don't have to explain to be exalted. Stay steady. Stay faithful. Stay quiet when necessary. Trust that what is unfolding in your life doesn't need constant commentary. It just needs your obedience and your patience. And in the right moment, heaven will speak louder than you ever could. The right people will recognize what's on you. The right opportunities will gravitate toward you. The right doors will open for you. Not because you campaigned for it, but because you were consistent in silence. The next level of your life doesn't require you to win every argument. It requires you to win in discipline. It requires you to win in restraint. It requires you to win in wisdom. Don't get caught in distractions that disguise themselves as debates. Don't lose momentum trying to clarify what time will make clear. Your future is too bright to dim it by constantly defending yourself. Your calling is too great to shrink it by stepping into battles that aren't assigned to you. Hold your peace, guard your focus, protect your voice. Because heaven is about to speak in ways you couldn't have scripted even if you tried. There is something undeniable about a life that bears fruit. You don't have to explain a tree when it's heavy with harvest. You don't have to convince people of what's real when the evidence is standing right in front of them. You can spend your days trying to argue for your calling, trying to defend your dream, trying to explain your assignment, or you can stay focused long enough to produce something so substantial that no one can ignore it. Results have a way of quieting conversations that words never could. Fruitfulness speaks in rooms where opinions once tried to drown you out. When you stay planted, when you keep sowing, when you keep watering the assignment that was given to you, eventually what's been growing in the dark will be seen in the light. And the best part is, you won't have to say a word. The temptation is always there to jump ahead and tell people where you're going before you get there, to try to make them see it before it's finished. But often the most powerful moves are the ones you make in silence. Quiet progress builds unshakable foundations. Private discipline births public promotion. When you spend less time explaining and more time building, you'll look up and realize you've created something that speaks for itself. You don't have to post every step. You don't have to announce every breakthrough. What's real will reveal itself. What's authentic doesn't need constant advertisement. There's a deep strength in quietly letting your consistency accumulate into something undeniable. Results are louder than rebuttals. Favor is louder than frustration. Success is louder than slander. You don't have to chase rumors when you're too busy chasing purpose. You don't have to entertain negativity when you're too occupied cultivating destiny. You don't have to correct every critic when you're walking so strongly in your calling that your outcomes do the explaining for you. What you build in obedience always rises higher than what others try to tear down in opinion. When your hands stay busy, your spirit stays peaceful. When your hands stay diligent, your voice doesn't have to. And before long, what you've built in faith will speak in places where your defense would have fallen short. Every time you keep sowing when it's hard, you're adding to a testimony that will one day be undeniable. Every time you show up when no one notices, you're preparing a harvest that no one will be able to deny. And when it's time, the evidence will speak so clearly that the very people who questioned you will have no choice but to recognize what's on your life. Your results are your vindication. Your fruit is your confirmation. Your consistency is your declaration. Keep building quietly. Keep working faithfully. Keep sowing diligently, because what's coming will speak volumes on your behalf. But here's the key. In order to get there, you have to learn how to hold your peace. Peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. Every time you choose not to react in anger, you're holding your power. Every time you walk away from an unnecessary argument, you're holding your power. Every time you smile in the face of misunderstanding instead of lashing out, you're holding your power. Holding your peace doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your purpose to be pulled into distractions. It means you value your energy too much to waste it on what won't matter 5 minutes from now. It means you understand that what's ahead of you is far greater than what's trying to provoke you. The more peaceful you stay, the more powerful you become. Peace is magnetic. Peace is attractive. People are drawn to the person who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't crumble under criticism, who doesn't waver under attack. There's a strength in stillness that rattles insecurity more than any argument ever could. When you stay calm in chaos, you stand out in a way that words can't match. When you hold your peace, you're saying, I know where I'm going, and nothing you say or do is going to knock me off course. You're saying, I've come too far to let petty distractions derail me now. You're saying, my assignment is too important to waste time fighting battles that don't belong to me. Holding your peace is not just about what you don't say. It's about where you keep your focus. When your mind stays fixed on the promise, you won't be tempted to engage with the problem. When your heart stays set on your purpose, you won't get caught up in proving points to people who aren't even connected to your destiny. The person who keeps peace holds power because their energy is invested in progress, not in proving. Their strength is reserved for building, not battling. And because of that, they always stay one step ahead of the noise. You don't have to lower yourself to every confrontation. You don't have to step down from your purpose to step into every argument. When you hold your peace, you hold your position. And the person who holds position wins. You don't win by exhausting yourself in every debate. You win by staying the course when others fall off. You win by staying planted when others get distracted. You win by staying consistent when others burn out chasing applause. There's something powerful about being unbothered, something powerful about being unmoved. Something powerful about staying grounded when everything around you tries to shake you. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's not passivity. That's power. When you learn to hold your peace, you become unshakable. Criticism rolls off. Insults don't stick. Misunderstandings don't rattle you. You understand that people's opinions don't determine your outcome. Their approval isn't the gateway to your destiny. Their applause isn't the fuel for your journey. So why would you hand over your power by constantly reacting to what doesn't move you closer to purpose? Every time you hold your peace, you reclaim control over your spirit. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you prove that your strength comes from something deeper than external affirmation. And as you hold your peace, you'll start to notice that you're getting stronger in ways you didn't even realize. Your patience deepens. Your discernment sharpens. Your vision clears. All because you're not wasting energy on distractions. You're not draining yourself on pointless confrontations. You're not sidetracked by what people think. You're locked into your assignment. You're fixed on your future, and as you move forward, the results will start to speak louder than anything you could have ever said in defense. What you build will silence what they said. What you achieve will quiet what they assumed. What you accomplish will hush what they accused. And you'll look up one day and realize that while others were busy talking, you were busy becoming. While others were busy debating, you were busy developing. While others were busy gossiping, you were busy growing. That's the power of holding your peace. It's not passive, it's proactive. It's not weak, it's wise. And it positions you for a level of elevation that noise could never reach. You're not missing out by staying silent. You're not falling behind by choosing not to react. You're investing in something far greater. You're storing up strength that will sustain you in seasons of promotion. You're cultivating endurance that will carry you when the doors open wider. You're building capacity that will hold what's coming next. Don't underestimate what's happening when you hold your peace. Don't think nothing is happening just because you're not saying much. Often the greatest growth happens in the quietest moments. Often the most powerful preparation happens in the seasons where you're silent and still. Stay steady. Stay focused. Keep building. Let the fruit speak. Let the evidence rise. Let the results do the explaining. You're not here to convince everyone. You're here to complete the assignment. You're here to finish the race. You're here to walk out the purpose that was placed in you long before people had opinions about it. So don't hand over your power by reacting to what doesn't matter. Don't trade your peace for temporary validation. Don't forfeit your focus to prove a point. Hold your peace. Guard your spirit. Protect your energy. Because what you're building is about to speak in ways you couldn't have scripted if you tried. There are moments in life where it feels like everything has gone quiet. The doors don't seem to be opening the way they used to. The calls aren't coming in as often as they did. The conversations slow down. The opportunities thin out. And the natural instinct is to wonder what went wrong, to ask what you missed, to think that the quiet means you've been overlooked. But what if the silence isn't a setback at all? What if the silence is the strategy? What if the quiet isn't rejection but redirection? What if the pause isn't punishment but preparation? Sometimes heaven speaks loudest in the quietest seasons. Sometimes the most strategic moves happen when no one is looking, no one is clapping, and no one is commenting. Because in the silence, distractions fall away, clarity sharpens, and purpose roots itself deep. It's easy to mistake silence for insignificance. When you're not being applauded, you think maybe you're not making progress. When you're not being acknowledged, you assume maybe you're not advancing. But just because it's quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. A seed does its most important work underground where nobody sees it. The roots stretch deep in the soil before the shoot ever breaks the surface. And if you pulled it up too soon just because it looked like nothing was happening, you'd abort the very growth you've been praying for. Silence is not the enemy of purpose. Sometimes it's the fertilizer of destiny. It's in the unseen places where God strengthens what He's building in you so that when it does surface, it's sustainable and not shallow. Silence teaches you to trust what you planted even when you can't see what's sprouting. It teaches you to believe in what you're carrying even when you don't hear confirmation. And the truth is, silence is often a shield. When God quiets a season, it's not because He forgot about you, it's because He's protecting you from distractions that could have derailed you. Some connections didn't call back because their presence would have pulled you off course. Some doors didn't open because what was behind them wasn't aligned with your assignment. Some conversations dried up because if they continued, they would have drowned out your discernment. Silence has a way of refining your focus, purifying your motives, and anchoring your identity so that when the noise does return, you're rooted enough not to be swayed by it. The temptation in silent seasons is to try to fill the quiet, to talk more, post more, explain more, defend more, prove more. But the wisest thing you can do is to lean into the stillness and let the silence work on you. You don't have to announce every step to feel significant. You don't have to update everyone on every move to validate your calling. The less you explain, the more heaven elevates. The less you chase approval, the more God aligns favor. The less you strive for validation, the more you make room for revelation. Explanation might satisfy people temporarily, but elevation satisfies purpose eternally. When you don't explain everything, you give heaven space to do the talking. You give God room to orchestrate conversations and connections behind the scenes that your words could never arrange. When you stay silent, instead of justifying yourself, you position yourself for promotion that can't be sabotaged by man's opinion. Every time you resist the urge to over-explain, you're saying, I trust the evidence to speak when the time is right. I trust the fruit to show when the season is full. I trust that what's in me is bigger than what people think about me. Silence keeps you from draining energy in the wrong direction. It conserves your strength for the places where it really counts. You don't have to clear up every misunderstanding. You don't have to correct every wrong assumption. You don't have to spend your time explaining to people who are committed to misunderstanding you anyway. The less you explain, the more you protect your peace. The less you explain, the more you preserve your power. The less you explain, the more you focus your energy on building what matters. When your eyes are on purpose, you won't be as concerned about perception. When your hands are busy constructing your future, you won't have time to argue about your past. Silence becomes your strategy because it keeps you anchored when distractions would have drifted you. And the powerful thing about being comfortable in silence is that heaven doesn't miss what man overlooks. God doesn't ignore what others ignore. When you're faithful in obscurity, heaven prepares reward in public. When you're diligent in the dark, heaven arranges spotlight in the light. And here's what happens by the time the evidence shows up, it'll be undeniable. You won't have to convince anyone. You won't have to prove anything. The fruit will speak louder than your words ever could. The success will answer the questions you were tempted to explain away. The elevation will silence the critics you were tempted to respond to. Silence is not absence. Silence is alignment. Silence is not void. Silence is vision. Every time you hold back from explaining, you're saying, I'm more invested in where I'm going than in arguing about where I am. I'm more committed to destiny than to debate. I'm more focused on elevation than on explanation. And because of that posture, heaven can trust you with promotion that lasts. You've shown you don't need man's approval to stay faithful. You've proven you don't need applause to stay consistent. You've demonstrated that your commitment runs deeper than surface level validation. That's when God breathes on your work and multiplies it in ways no explanation could have accomplished. Silence isn't stagnation, it's strengthening. Silence isn't delay, it's deepening. Silence isn't rejection, it's refinement. There are things being built in your character right now that words could never fast track. There's discernment sharpening in you that no conversation could have cultivated. There's wisdom forming in your spirit that explanation could not have accelerated. And when the moment is right, the growth that took place in silence will speak so clearly that even those who doubted will have to acknowledge what's on your life. You don't have to rush the process. You don't have to force the timing. You don't have to explain away the quiet seasons. Stay steady, stay faithful, stay consistent. Keep watering the assignment even when no one's watching. Keep showing up even when no one's clapping. Keep building even when no one's asking. Because what's forming in silence will surface in power. What's strengthening in secret will show up in strength. What's being rooted in obscurity will rise in influence. Let the silence be your strategy. Let the quiet work on you. Let the hidden season fortify you. And when the time comes, you'll step into a space so prepared, so undeniable, so evident that you'll realize it was never a setback. It was always the setup. So if you're in a season where you feel unseen, stay steady. If you're in a place where people are questioning you, stay silent. If you're facing criticism that you know isn't true, stay peaceful. Don't trade your purpose for a petty argument. Don't lower your voice to prove a point. Don't step off your assignment to convince people who aren't assigned to your destiny. Your silence is speaking even when your mouth is closed. Your silence is building even when nothing looks visible. Your silence is weaponizing you with the kind of strength that can't be shaken. Because at the end of the day, what's louder than words is fruit. What's louder than arguments is elevation. What's louder than criticism is undeniable favor. And the people who questioned you, the ones who misunderstood you, the ones who tried to provoke you, they'll see it with their own eyes. They won't be able to deny what God has done. They won't be able to argue with the results. And you won't have to say a word. Your life will speak for itself.